The last time Elias Boone had spoken to a woman, the radio was still a miracle, and his beard was black instead of white. That morning, as the sun crept over the dry hills and painted his ranch in pale gold, he expected nothing more than the usual silence whined through dead grass, the creak of his porch boards, the low grunt of cattle waiting to be fed. Instead, he stepped outside and froze. 6 women stood at the edge of his land, dust on their boots, eyes steady. And one by one they lowered themselves to their knees, as if the earth itself had commanded it. Elias's heart hammered like it hadn't in decades. He gripped the doorframe. Unsure whether he was dreaming or losing his mind, he'd built his life on distance, on quiet, on the belief that nothing surprising ever came to men like him anymore. The ranch had been his refuge after the world had taken too much. His wife, Ruth, had died young. Their daughter had followed her not long after, taken by a fever that left Elias hollowed out and raw. He stayed because leaving felt like another death. Years piled on years. People stopped coming. Even the town learned to forget him. The women rose slowly, not in fear, but with a kind of reverence. The one in front stepped forward. She was tall, her hair tied back, her face marked by both strength and softness. "Mr. Boone," she said, her voice steady. "We're sorry to disturb you." We didn't know how else to begin. He stared at her mouth as it moved, struggling to remember how conversation worked. You got the wrong place," he finally managed. His voice sounded like gravel dragged across wood. "No," she replied gently. "This is exactly the place." It didn't rush him. That alone unsettled him. Most people, when they came at all, wanted something quickly land. Money, answers. These women waited, hands clasped, eyes honest. Elias motioned them to the porch without quite knowing why. They followed, careful not to crowd him, as if sensing the fragile ground they were walking on. They introduced themselves one by one, sisters, friends, cousins, bound by something deeper than blood. They had traveled far, across states and memories, guided by stories passed down in whispers. The woman who had spoken first explained that her grandmother once worked on this very ranch as a girl, during a winter when her family had nothing. "You took them in," she said, "fed them, never asked for a thing." Elias frowned. Past blurred together in his mind, but he remembered faces at his table, hands warming around bowls of soup, Ruth smiling as she always did when helping others. "That was a long time ago," he muttered. "That kindness didn't disappear," another woman said softly. "It moved forward. It reached us." They told him why they had come. The ranch was failing. Elias's body was failing too, though he hated to admit it. The land was rich, but tired, like him. These women were farmers, builders, teachers, each carrying skills and a shared dream of restoring places forgotten by time. They wanted to work the land with him, not take it from him. They wanted to bring life back together. Suspicion rose in his chest. He had learned the cost of trust. "Why me?" he asked. "Why now?" The woman in front met his gaze. "Because you once believed people mattered more than profit, because this land still remembers that." Days passed before Elias gave an answer. The women camped nearby, never pressuring him, helping where they could. They fixed a broken fence without being asked. They shared meals, laughter floating across the fields like music he'd forgotten existed. At night, Elias lay awake, listening, feeling something unfamiliar stir hope, sharp and frightening. Memories returned uninvited. Ruth's laugh, his daughter's tiny hands clutching his fingers. He had sealed himself away to avoid pain, but pain had found him anyway in the shape of loneliness. Watching these women work together, argue and forgive, struggle and persist, he realized how starved he had been for connection. When he finally agreed, his voice trembled. "You can stay," he said, "but this land, it's not easy." None of them smiled wider than that moment. "Neither are we," one replied. The months that followed transformed the ranch. New crops took root. The old barn was repaired. Elias found himself teaching again how to read the sky, how to listen to the soil, how to respect what came before. In return, They taught him how to let go of the past without forgetting it. Evenings were filled with stories around the fire. Elias spoke of Ruth and their daughter, tears falling freely for the first time in years. No one told him to be strong. They simply stayed. Challenges came, as they always do. A drought threatened the harvest. Storm tore through the fields. Doubt crept in, whispering that this happiness was temporary. But this time, Elias didn't face it alone. Together, they adapted, shared burdens, and rebuilt stronger than before. One morning, Elias woke to the sound of laughter echoing across the land. He stepped outside, leaning on his cane, and watched the women moving with purpose and joy. The ranch breathed again. So did he. He understood then that the kneeling hadn't been an act of submission. It had been respect for the land, for the man he once was, and for the possibility of what he could still become. Life had not ended when he withdrew from the world. It had been waiting. As the sun set that evening, Elias felt peace settle over him like a warm blanket. He hadn't seen a woman in decades because he had closed his eyes to the world. Now surrounded by voices and purpose, he knew something powerful and simple was true. No matter how long you live in silence, it only takes one moment of courage to let life back in.